Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Aligning with Success. I'm your host, Mike DiMuccio, and it is January 15th. I hope everybody got something nice in the mail. In your inbox and your bank account today, because it is payday, the 15th of the month, that is, for all bonuses, NECAN-wise. And if you would like to add a 0 to that number, you're at the right call. If you'd like to add 2 zeros to that number, you're probably still at the right call. If you want to add 3 zeros to that number, well, then we're going to have a private conversation, you and I. So feel free to reach out to me and I will tell you what you need to know. Not that I haven't already done that, but this is where accountability really helps. So thanks for joining me. I don't know if you recall, but last week I gave you guys some homework and I had a little practice with the French Canadian team over the last hour and a half of following up with this homework. And as I mentioned, it was about setting a goal, given that we are at in the beginning of a new year, and not just a new year, but a whole new vibe in NECAN, complete with its own inner workings coming both from corporate and the field. There's a couple of things I do want to highlight tonight, really give you a chance to maybe jump in and ask some real questions about this. Because we really need to go from theory into practical into action. So I want all my calls to be really action oriented. So I was going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10. You're going to state your goal and or your belief in the goal for this year or this month or this quarter, whatever it was. And I was going to give you a rating on it based on whether I believe you or not. If you recall, that was last week's homework I was going to leave you with. And I've got pretty much all the French Canadian group. They did really, really well on this, by the way. They took it seriously. So I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to force you. I'm just going to ask, is there anybody who would like to share their goals, both or immediate, midterm, long-term for NECAN as a result of this exercise of setting a goal? And what's interesting, by the way, because every time somebody came up with whatever it is they came up with, there was a real learning opportunity with each person and their objectives and how to frame or reframe their objectives in a way that really gave some business insight. So part of this exercise is really to really be able to flush out, how do we translate a goal? How do we create a goal? How do we translate a goal into something meaningful that can actually work in our favor and create an outcome, a desirable outcome? So does anybody want to share their goal? Yes, Maggie. Thanks for being the first.
I usually wait, but I'm so excited. I guess who I had lunch with?
Who did you have lunch with? Don't tell me.
Bruce Black. Bruce
Oh,
Black.
wow. How cool is that? Bruce Black. Wonderful.
He's excited about our event coming up in May that you're coming out for.
Is he back out there? Is he living out in BC?
He's going to live here for several months a year.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's exciting. So my goal is to be a fully qualified diamond business on or before December, let's say 29th, since that's my son's birthday. And I have the rank, but I don't have the volume. So that's what I'm going to fill in this year.
Okay. Do you have any insights into what your action plan looks like, building it up over, like if you were to, I'm going to suggest you break, that's a sizable goal. So breaking it down, what I usually do when I'm looking at something this big, I mean, you probably, if you don't already have it, let me know, because I'll just jump right in. If you do have some stuff, go ahead and tell us what you got.
Well, I've got, the the picture is 3 qualified platinums, plus lots of customers and personal group and so on to make up the extra 10,000. And I have 2 frontline platinums now who are inactive, and I don't think they are the ones. So I am looking to attract and build every quarter a new platinum consultant.
This is a great learning opportunity, by the way.
So that, by the end of the 3rd quarter, I'll have all 3 in place, and then the momentum will be to finish each of them being qualified by the end of the year. So that's what I'm up to.
Okay. Pause. Great way to start this call, by the way, because I'm sure most people who are setting goals aren't thinking that big. Furthermore, to think, oh, well, that just means 3 new platinums, was just essentially saying I'm starting from 0 and building a diamond ship in this year. The difference is I'm not a newbie. I'm not a novice. I know how to do this business. I know how to apply myself. I know what's needed. So even though this goal may seem lofty in the eyes of most people, especially people who have not yet ascended to diamond, for you, it's hindsight. And hindsight is 2020. You knew what you would do if you were doing it all over again, which is what you're doing. And this is the part that's really important. Some people I just got off a call where they're looking at going gold in 6 months. So they're looking at achieving the rank of gold, and they're looking at a 6-month window. That's a hell of a long time to go gold. Now, for somebody who's been in Nikken as a royal executive, they've been executive, a year, 2, whatever, then they're thinking, geez, if I could go gold in 6 months, that would be awesome. Yeah, okay. The reason why these things to you and to me are not monumental, because we've been there, done that. We have the benefit of hindsight. We know what the dynamics are to create the kind of movement we're talking about creating here. And so, I want to recap, because within the framework of your goal is everybody's goal. Everyone can achieve within the framework. So I'll create a framework, and then we'll pick it up again. And maybe some people might revisit their ambition, their objectives. But there was a point in time where I was breaking silvers inside of a week, because for me, it was just an exercise. It was like, if I have the right candidate and they do the work that needs to get done, the work is the work. It's not like we manipulate the work. It is what it is. And if they're going to do it in a week's time, the work that most people would have done in 1 month's time, the work that 99% of the people don't ever actually do, like, we're just compressing time. We're just saying there's a certain thing that you have to do. You got to make this cake. You can stretch it out by shopping, for 1 item every week, or you can just do it in a day or do it in an hour and then just bake the cake. It's just whatever it is, the work is defined. The longer you actually take to do it, the worse it is. The worse the outcome, the worse the results, the worse the feeling. Time is not your friend in this business, in the sense of building it. What you want to do is you want to actually leverage it. You don't want to take time. You want to leverage time. Big monster difference in those 2 ideas. So you said 1 new platinum per quarter. That's kind of I think that's a fallback position. So here's why I say that. Ideally, if you take your year and divide it in half. So what I would first do with a goal like this is I would say, okay, what's the volume I've got to create? Divide the 100,000 by 2. By the way, I never do 100,000. I always overshoot. So let's say we're going to do 150.
Okay.
Let's say 150 is the volume at the end of the year, or if you want to make it a little bit more modest, 120. But it's got to be that. It's got to be at least something above the mark. Why? you remember breaking through the board?
Yep. You have to look
We
beyond.
always have to be beyond whatever it is. If your fallback position, if your end game is this thing, the board, you got to always be aiming for something beyond the board because there's always contingencies. So we've got to aim beyond the board. So let's say 120K volume is what's generated in December. So in December, on December 29th, you open up my office, my Niken, you go back there and you see, click, you just hit 120,000 in volume. Okay, because we're going to work backwards from there. So that means sometime in June, you saw 60K.
Yeah.
Which means working backwards from there, what's 3 months out? Sometime in March, you saw 30K. Okay, which means sometime in, well, I guess what, mid-February, you saw 15K. Now, for us to get to 15K mid-February, what do we got going on right now that you could leverage as a story to attract enough people where 15K would be the consequence of not just the people you attract, but let's take this down a generation. At least 2 generations have been attracted. Okay. So we've got 2 generations of people. So not just the people you're giving birth to, but the people they're giving birth to. So that we've got 15K. How many people would you have to give birth to? And how many people would they have to give birth to for you to have 15K? Well, we don't know how many people, we don't know what volume per person we've got. Right. So we should figure that out. Let's call that culture. I'm just going to, for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to say part of the culture of your launch is when you join this team, you can do whatever you want, but this team performs with a certain culture. We have certain things that we have as an expectation or as an influence, let's say, the culture that we're going to influence. We want people investing in a wellness home if they're going to do this as a business. If they're going to do this as a hobby, do it as a hobby. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. But if you're going to do this as a business and you want to be part of the A team being the inner circle, being the people who we spend the time and the energy with and have access to the top people in Niken, because that's one of the benefits of being a high roller is you get access. So what would it look like? I'm going to say, like I say in the culture of my business, I teach good, better, best. 1 pack's good, 2 packs is better, 3 packs is best. That's the culture of what I teach. You always hear it when I present. You see it every time I present. You'll see 3 packs presented, good, better, best, always. Why? Because that's the culture I want to create. Why? Because my experience in Niken is if you want to play the game at the high rollers level, you have to have a standard and you have to have a minimum standard. You know, you go to Vegas, there's the tables everybody can play at. Then there's the tables that, you know, you got to have a little bit of money to actually be able to bet on at these tables. And then they got in the back room where you're not allowed to go, they got the high rollers table. So if you want to play the game at that level, you got to have enough to go in to make the minimum bet. So I'm talking about playing the game at an above average level, because going diamond in a year is an above average level. So you've got to have a standard that you're going to set and keep your eye on, because the ones who are ringing that bell are the ones who get the attention. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, what's the standard? I'm going to suggest as a minimum for this exercise, 1,500 points, which would be the equivalent of 2 packs. So if you're offering 3 packs, 1, 2, or 3, good, better, or best, what do you think the mean average is going to be?
1.5.
It's going to be the midpoint, right? Yeah, it's going to be the midpoint. So not everybody has got good best. Not everybody just wants to come in good. They want to be best, but they can maybe only start at better. So better When you have three options, people tend to choose the middle option. That's
Yeah.
the tendency. So one of the reasons why you want to have in your culture offer three things, good, better, best, is because that's going to always set up the median. And the median will generally always be the better category. So if, good is one pack, let's say it's like 500-600 points. Better is two packs, like 1,500 points. Best is three packs, like 2,500 points. Now you got your good, better, best. And the median is going to be, some will do 2,500, some will do 500-600, but the median will be 1,500. So
Got
now,
it.
if we've got three people who have three people who do 1,500 points,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
Which means they may have some people who do more, some people who do less, and some people who join who do nothing at all. But they have at least three who do what we're setting as a standard. That's 1,500 times 3 is 4,500 points. If you've got three groups doing 4,500 points at the same time, what's the volume?
Three groups doing 4,500?
15.
It's 13,500.
13,500. Yeah, that's what I had
And
down.
if the
10,500.
lead group, if the leader of that group, the one who started this, does their 1,500, so now everybody's doing 1,500, there's 15,000. The leader of that group goes gold.
Yeah, that's
Now
cool.
that's
Yeah.
if everything works out perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
What if we build a contingency?
Good plan.
The
Four.
contingency is out of every 9 people that join, enroll, 3 actually come through.
Okay.
So now we set a standard of 9. So now we have a mission. Everyone who joins is going to sponsor 9 people inside a certain time frame, so that happens simultaneously, and we need to duplicate that 2 generations. It sounds like a tall order. It sounds like an impossibility, but I can tell you one thing. Done it many times. I've done it way further than this. So you decide if this is a good game plan, because if this is a good game plan, Maggie, then what we're talking about is now a plan of action to go into right now for mid-February. Okay. So what events going on in February that could tie all this together?
The launch of the new product.
Okay. So we got a new product launch. Do we have an actual event?
Yeah, in-home. I'm going to do that as an in-home.
We've got that. We're going to have more than one in-home to get this through the gate. So what I've just described to you, so you guys have some visuals.
Yeah.
Is this. This is what I just described. I said, somebody is going to enroll 3 people and help them enroll 3 people in the next month.
Okay.
Seems like a tall order, right? But if we work backwards, we would know that the first generation would have to be born in a certain time frame, and the second generation in another time frame. So if the first generation was born in 2 weeks, the second generation would probably be born in 4 to 6 weeks. So February might be a little bit premature, but can we get the first generation born by February? Yes. We might even get the second generation born by the end of February. So now what we have is the beginning of a play and the building of a story that we are going to present and find out who wants to play. And you might think, oh, the harder you make this, the more less likely it's going to happen. It's the exact opposite. I call it the big pill theory. Give me 1 second, Barbara. The big pill theory is, if I called you up, Maggie, and I said, Maggie, I got this really cool idea, and I think, take some time, have a look at it whenever it's convenient, and get back to me. Versus I call Maggie up and say, Maggie, I got something. I need you to look at it right now. Stop everything you're doing. I'll call you back in 15 minutes. Now, which one is likely to get Maggie more captivated, more interested?
Second one for sure.
Yeah, that's the big pill theory. In other words, the more urgent, the more impressive, the more important, that's going to cause somebody to second guess whether or not they should take it seriously or not, and they probably will. So this play that I'm describing, this launch strategy that I'm describing, is what the 18K Club is about. The 18K Club is about putting somebody on a track to exercise that, so that within 90 days they've completed this. We're talking 90 days on the 18K Club, but you could reduce that time frame, especially if you're looking to go diamond in a year. So if you did 1 platinum every quarter, it would work. But if you found 3 people in the first quarter and helped those 3 people execute their launches, each of whom are on par to go platinum using this strategy, then it's easier to raise 3 people simultaneously than 1 at a time individually. Think about it this way. Children. You have children, you take one to the age of 15, then you have another one. You take them to the age of 15, then you have another one. Take them to the age of 15. Now, if you're a parent and you have kids, you know that's much more difficult than having 3 kids at the same time. They're all in diapers at the same time. They're all learning how to potty train at the same time. They're all in, you know, in carpools at the same time. It's easier to give birth to a tribe at one time than it is to space it out. Barbara, you put your hand down, or maybe you have a question. Or
No, the computer did it.
Go ahead,
me.
jump in on this.
Okay, so I just want to add, Mike, that sometimes it's easier to have a vision that people can jump on with you in that. And Niken's done a great job by using the travel club and the ambassador team and such. And so instead of 1,500, or maybe have your good, better, best in the accelerated program, because it's 2,000 minimum PGV to be in the travel club with your 100 personal volume and such. And so if we hold that as the bar, because who doesn't want to win a trip or possibly win the convention trip?
Okay, do you see what Barbara's doing? Barbara is bootstrapping Niken incentives to this plan.
Yeah.
So the plan is inspiring her to bootstrap. What do we got that sweetens the pie? What do we got that makes this a little bit more constructive, a little bit more defined, a little bit more inspiring? And that's what starts to happen when you start to plan. You start to look at, what are my resources? What are my tools? What can I leverage? Who can I leverage?
And a lot of people want to know what's in it for them, not you. And right now it's you, right? I want to be diamond. I want to be paid diamond. Da-da-da-da-da. I mean, I know my family's like, I stopped talking qualifying, right? You know, way back when, because they don't want to hear that. So if we talk about the trips or the incentives, now they can take the trip anywhere, 2 people, right? $1,500 in the next quarter, or they can continue to build it and or transfer it. How great would it be to have all those legs win the trip to the convention, right?
If
I mean,
you
that would catapult you to the whole next level.
Okay, so this is perfect. This is perfect. What Barbara's helping us do is actually see the life of a new person over this next year, which Maggie helps you put this in writing, helps you actually visualize and putting it in writing so that you have something to offer. This is now your offer. Now you're going to find 3 people who are excited by such an offering. When you don't have a clearly defined offer, then you're not going to have a clearly defined prospect. And it's going to be hard to achieve the NHL Stanley Cup champion team if you don't have the players. So you got to know what you're going after to attract the right players. You got to define it. And I'm saying why this is not impossible is because 99.9% of every human being that's in network marketing does not operate this way. It's the high income earners who do. Believe me, I'm one of them. So what high income earners in network marketing do is they actually operate their business like a business. They don't operate it like a hobby. It's not a women of prayer. It's not, I hope this is what's going to happen this year. They actually make a plan. They don't always achieve the plan, but they're always further ahead, and they've developed new skills in setting such high objectives, because you may not even have some of the skills, Maggie, that's necessary, but now you're forced to actually figure it out, because if this is what you want and you've made this a commitment and a goal to yourself, then that means you've got to sharpen the axe. There may be some things that are more relevant today than when you first went diamond. And so this is why we set goals. People who are afraid to set goals, I heard this on a previous call. They were afraid to set the goal because they didn't want to delude themselves, deceive themselves if they don't achieve it. Can you imagine? Let's not set a goal. Everybody in the world, everybody out there in the world, anybody who matters, do not set any goals, because God forbid you don't actually achieve them. Can you imagine if we operated this way? So, no, we set goals for the simple reason that we have to learn to be the person who can achieve the goal. Because if we were already that person, it wouldn't be a very good goal. A good goal is one that inspires you and causes you to stretch, to get beyond where you're at. That's why a goal is relevant. That's why we set them. It's to become the person who could achieve them. Whether you do it or not in the time frame you set is not the point. Because once you have acquired the skills, the ability to achieve it, you will achieve it. You'll reset the goal and you'll achieve it. Maybe you'll set a higher goal. The point is, you keep setting and resetting. And as you do that, you get further and further along the road. So this goal, Maggie, this idea of hitting 15,000 with a team, but you're creating a plan for the individuals on that team. So that's what you're going to be offering. It's not going to be, I'm going diamond, why don't you join me?
No, I would never say that to
I
somebody.
know that.
no.
I know that. I'm saying it's about, now let
Yeah.
me find somebody who likes the idea of being paid, going on a trip and being paid for. Maybe maybe the trip is to Anaheim's 35th anniversary. Maybe that's how you're pitching it. If we do this, Maggie, if you join me, we're going to be going to Anaheim in October. You might as well put that in your calendar. We're going to have our trip paid for, be part of the 35th convention of this amazing idea. So that's part of your pitch. Can you imagine sitting down for somebody that you really respect, really trust, and say, I'm talking to you because of who you are and what I think I might have that could really be an enhancement in making you what you want to be. But before I go too far, let's talk about that. What would 2024 look like if it was your ideal 2024? What would have improved in your life, in these areas of your life? I think I might, and then they talk about that and say, I might have a way to help you do that. I've got a project and here's what it looks like. And by the way, if we succeed, here's what happens for all of us. We're going to be on a plane heading out to Anaheim on this date, and it'll be paid for, and so on and so forth. You start to paint a picture. And now the person, the big pill, the person's going to look at your offer a lot more seriously than, I've got this great product, this waterfall that can give you better fresh tasting water. And oh, by the way, you can also join me as a partner in this business and we can build something together. I mean, that's really lame compared to what I'm talking about. So I'm watching a series, a Netflix series. I think it's Netflix. I don't know. It's somewhere.
While you're thinking about it, the game that I used to really love to play is how many legs can I have, or how many team players can I have at that convention?
Yeah. Okay. So now you're breaking it down. That's going to be the next step. Let's break it down.
Okay.
But I'm saying I'm watching this series called Billions. It's fascinating. But what's really interesting is what we're talking about, 15,000 points creating with a little, they're talking about $150 million in a 3-minute conversation. They make a decision, done, bang, $150 million flows or more. So it's all relevant. It's relative. It's all relative, guys. There are people who will want to play the game and they'll want to play it at a faster speed and with bigger consequences. Otherwise, to them, it's not worth playing. So if the consequences are too small, if you're too sheepish about it, you're not going to attract the people who can move mountains, who can do a diamond ship in a year. So I'm talking about, it's all relative. What's the game you're going into in 2024? Are you taking 2023 with you into 2024, or have you learned something? So now let's doing the breakdown. If I'm going to sponsor and have everybody sponsor 9 people in order to find those 3, then we better game this out. We better figure out, when are we meeting? When are we going to have these presentations? What presentations? What is the collateral material? When they come to a presentation or leave a presentation, what do they go home with so they can stir in their mind? Do I send them home with the PDF of the good, better, best? Probably. If they're making a decision about something, they should be in their hands what the decision's for, right? Like, you start to prepare your campaign, and then when you go into launch mode, there's no thinking. It's already been done. It's now yes or no. And so now you create a culture. The culture defines the product orders, good, better, best. Pick one. I don't care which one you pick one. But pick one of those. We have a game plan for launching your business. We have a schedule of events that are key events that you can't miss, that you don't want to miss, because they're all key to the event, key to the business. So now start looking at your calendar saying, okay, what events do we know about for 2024 that are going to be critical for me to amass a following? There needs to be a fire and people need to huddle around that fire. I'm going to start off creating the fire locally, but then that fire is going to expand and we need to show them how big this thing is. So what events are the big events? Seiko Kai Master Day. What else?
Weekly wellness previews. Yeah.
Previews. We got January 20th, the most immediate. I mean, that may be premature, but this is a way to brush off the dust from the people who've been sitting on the sidelines and say, come and check this out. See if you're ready for something. Now, Maggie, imagine having something like this to talk about. Say, you like that? You like this new product? You like that? Wait till you see what I have in mind with this. How would you like to earn 1/3 of everything I earn in the next 12 months? Well, then I'm going to help 3 people achieve this. This is going to be their approximate earnings. Do you want to be one of those 3? So there's ways to communicate this that's robust, that's not sheepish, and then you can back it up with a plan because you've gamed it out. Game it out, because Maggie, what I'm talking about doing can be done in a month. You're going to take 12 months to do. I've helped somebody do twice that in 1 month.
Yes, Gabe Hardy.
Okay, so we know it can be done. It has to be gamed out. So what I'm talking about is how my mind starts to game this out. And so now I know we need to focus on the first 15,000, because that happening creates a template for the duplication.
Got it.
We do the 15K doing this, gaming this out 3 by 3. Now we have an actual, just do it 2 more generations down. Okay. All you have to do is 2 more generations down. I don't have the schematic with me, but I believe if you hit it 2 more generations down, you'll be hitting diamond.
You're talking about going to the 4th level?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold up your template again, Mike, real quick. And there's something else I wanted to say about that, because, you know, that is, the visual is really great. And for everybody to have that on their board or on their wall. What happened for me was, you know, if you're doing 9, but you shoot for 21, you're going to get out of the 9, the 3 that are going to play. And of those 3 that are playing, and it might be it might be February or March, but still what happens is there becomes a friendly competition between the different legs that start to happen. And when that happens, it gets a mind of its own.
It's that
And
sibling rivalry,
Yeah, exactly.
which actually plays into this. It's a dynamic that you didn't factor into this that actually helps. And it's like the idea of, and again, going back to why build one log at a time? You build one campfire, then you build another campfire, then you build another campfire. Each are small fires, or you build one big campfire. The bigger the campfire, the more visible it is. People from afar can see it and get heated up by or warmed up by it. So build one big campfire, just take it down a few more generations, and you hit your goal.
Mhm.
So if you can find 3 people who want to play with you now, because that's what the objective is, you might find your first, you know, I mean, you might already have your first, but if we have that as a game plan, then it comes down to, well, now, if we can game this out, map this out, and I can show you, here are the drop dead dates. We have to have this done by this date. We need to have this done by this date. We know what the Seiko Kais are. We know when the master days are. We know the main events. And then we have me coming in May, you know, so we have the calendar. It's like every one of those events is an opportunity to close the deal. So whoever we bring around that campfire, they catch on fire. Essentially what the big events are is whoever we get to those events, they don't get
Yep.
warm, they get lit up.
Mhm.
So we know we have the events. We plan those events because what we need is generation born, next generation born, next generation born. Each campfire is an opportunity for a generation to be born if everybody gets their marching orders.
Yeah.
So we've got to have the marching orders. What are they? Does everybody follow through? No, but some do. Now, it all comes back to a list. Who are we going to invite to tell the story, to pitch the story? So what do you got going as far as attracting people to the conversation you want to have? Now that we got a loose idea of what this conversation is going to look like, and we have to put it on paper a little bit more clearly, who are we going to talk to?
Well, I want to attract 2 groups, actually, people my age, because, you know, we're getting pretty long in the tooth, as my father would say, and looking after our health while we still have it is really important, and for the grandchildren. I think that's a key factor. The other group is my son Duncan's age, you know, the 40 somethings, because they really see, they don't necessarily see Nikan, but they see the whole, you know, self-employment, entrepreneurship, building, and fun. It has to be fun.
Okay, you're speaking my language here. So what you're now saying is, what's the bait at the end of the hook that gets this
Yep.
conversation started? Because Nikan is not it.
No.
Nikan is the vehicle.
Yeah, it's a platform, the vehicle. Yeah.
It's the platform and vehicle. So far, all we've been talking about is a game plan. Once we know what, you know, we got people to play with, but why are they playing? What's the purpose of the game? So now you're starting to talk about what's going to attract these people, entrepreneurship, the idea of entrepreneurship, the older generation. So if you can create, as you said, 2 demographics, ask yourself, what do these people want? If you're not sure, ask some of them. Take them out, ask them, phone them if you know somebody in that age group, and just say, I need to interview you. I'm building a campaign. I'm attracting some people. I want to know what's your hot buttons. And so, I mean, we're all pretty much the same, but it's how you present that idea to the one demographic versus the other. But
Mhm.
what you're now talking about is the bait. It's the, what do I need? What's the thing that I have to have at the tip of my mouth when I pick up the phone and call somebody saying, I'm looking for somebody. This is what the project is. This is what I'm doing. Do you know anybody who this fits, who resonates with this profile? So people who are interested in entrepreneurship's too wide an angle. We're launching an entrepreneurial group in their 40s who are focused on wellness, looking to build community, and being at the top of their performance, peak performers. Oh, yeah, that sounds like my nephew such and such. Do you see what I'm saying? You're defining who you're looking for, and you're also encapsulating it in why you're looking for them. Because this is what we're doing. I call somebody maybe in my age saying, I'm looking for somebody who is interested in vitality as their health, their vitality, and they're looking to have a side gig to support their financial retirement. That could be a very specific thing for a particular grouping of people. Figure out what's that line that you can pick up the phone and call anybody and say, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help? Does anybody come to mind? You may be thinking of that person themselves. This is the indirect approach, where you're not saying, Maggie, I want to talk to you about this. You're saying,
Yeah.
Maggie, you're somebody I trust and respect. Here's what's going on. We're doing this. This is what I'm looking for. Is there anybody you know that comes to mind? Who do you know that comes to mind that sounds like that could be a fit? Maggie might turn around and say, me?
Yeah.
Right? That's the indirect approach. Okay. Is there any question about this, what I'm doing? Is there anything you're not catching that I need to maybe zoom in on?
I've got what you're saying. I'm looking at other people. Anybody out there have a question?
This applies to everybody. If your goal is not to go gold, you're wasting your time. If you're not a gold and you haven't got a goal to go gold in the next quarter, this is a hobby, you're on the wrong call. But if you're here to add a 0 or 2 to your paycheck, you're on the right call, which means there shouldn't be anybody here who's not targeting what it takes to go gold in the next 90 days. So tell me, what does it take? Well, if I look at the compensation plan, it tells me what it takes, 15,000 points. Now, how do we achieve 15,000 points? We get help. So the focus is to get help. Remember the analogy of breaking through the board? If this is gold, breaking through the board, you're going to go silver. Whoever's trying to break through the board is going to go silver as a consequence. So gold is the goal, not silver. Silver is the consequence. Maggie, diamond is the goal. So you're going to break through platinum. So when you're enrolling people as part of the game plan, their game plan is diamond, not platinum. Platinum is what they break through on the road to diamond. That's why we overshoot. So we need to present a game plan for somebody to go diamond. Why is that important? Because that's when they hit 6 figures in income. Do you know anybody who would like to add 6 figures of income, building a business over the next 12 months, that by the end of the 12 months, they'll have a going concern that could add 6 figures to their bottom line? Does that sound like a pitch that you might want to be interested in having a look at? See, now somebody might actually look into this. See the difference? When you present an opportunity of that size, now you might have said to yourself, I have no clue how to deliver on that. It's okay, I do. Bring them to me. I'll show them.
I've actually done that in the past, so I know how to do that myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And by the way, for the rest of you, the 18 karat gold accelerator program is for this purpose.
Mhm.
It's why it exists. It's to play at that, it's the high rollers table, which, Barbara, you can vouch for me. Given the standards we've come from, is it really the high rollers table? Really? We used to break
It's a
silvers.
launching.
Okay, it's a launch pad. It's not so much in other words, there could be higher expectations, but we're not setting those right now. Next year, next January, we can talk about that. When Maggie's a new renewed diamond, we can talk about what goals should look like in January 2025.
Mhm.
So this year is an up step from last year. So 2023, we talked about this, we shared all this information, we were prepping for this, bits and pieces and all that. 2024 is game time. 2025 is watch and see what this momentum does. Because
Mhm.
this is the year that the players show up. And they show up on a treadmill. They're already half running. So you got to be ready for this. And what we talked about tonight is how to be ready for it, to actually game it out, to draw it out in your mind. That's why this exists. This is blue, by the way. It looks like a blueprint. It's designed specifically to look like a blueprint because it's the blueprint. It
Mhm.
is the blueprint. You take 100 names, you put them into a process.
Mhm.
There's the process, the 3 conversations, which
Mhm.
results in people showing up on this card, either as customers or consultants. And out of those consultants, your leaders show up. That's
Mhm.
it. Round 1. Round 2 is we launch. But every one of these people, before they join, are shown this. This is the game plan. This is the game plan. Why do they need to see a game plan? Would you join a business that didn't have a plan?
Mhm.
Would you invest $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 in something that had no plan? So you can't expect people to play the game at this level without a plan. And if you don't have a plan, if you're not using a plan, now you know why they're not coming to your door. So if you want to add a 0 to your check, 2, you're on the right call. If you want to add 3, maybe we should talk in private. And we'll have a deeper conversation. We'll flush this out like we're going to do with Maggie. Any questions so far? Now, I'm curious. We didn't get to a lot of goals, and I was going to rate some of you, but I'm curious. Anybody who's been listening to this conversation, does this create excitement, or does this create, what's the word I'm looking for? Fear, I guess. Anxiety. I'm sorry, what's that?
Spark. It created a spark in me.
A spark?
Park,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some people who this might be like, oh, it's so much. It's daunting. It's whatever. It's okay.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Mhm.
What else you got to do with your life?
There you go.
Where's the fun? Honestly, think your life in the past. When did you have the most fun?
At Nikan events with Nikan people. Seriously.
Right? Wasn't it winning? I mean,
Yeah.
didn't you have the most fun
Yep.
winning? And
Right.
yeah,
I just want to say there's something brilliant that it's so simple we may have overlooked it. So I just want to underline your segue, because we're all really good at selling waterfalls or selling bracelets or selling pillows or whatever. And there is a line of demarcation when we know we're going into that mode, right? But what
Mhm.
happens with you is you don't want the sale. You go, you think that's really great, then you need to see that. Like you talked about the bait, but you actually have a way of segueing into network marketing or the business or the bigger picture. And it's so, I'm going to use the wrong word, but so smooth or so whatever that we might miss it if we don't hear you say it in a way that there's a bridge to that. Look, I don't mind selling you a waterfall, and I don't mind setting you up with a wellness home. But what I really want to talk to you about, or however that segue is, that you get them to see the picture about the business.
It's interesting because the segue for me, it's the other way around. I don't start the conversation with the waterfall. I start the conversation with, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm looking for. Do you know anybody that'll be interested in having this conversation with me? So you paint the picture of the project, you know, and you look for who you know that might fit the bill. Nikken is the vehicle. I don't sell Nikken. I don't sell the products, but I sell the products because inadvertently, in the process of learning about this, they're going to be exposed to the products. No different than if I was going to sell you a McDonald's franchise, you'd probably want to know what we sell at the stores. So you're going to learn, and you're going to probably say, hey, I'd like to try those fries. Man, these are really good fries. And you might be satisfied with fries, but thanks, but no thanks. I don't have $1.5 million to invest in the franchise, whatever. So the point is, the products come along in the conversation. It's the natural flow of information, but it doesn't start with that. That's not my lead. Although we do have tools like the one I did, the strength test. That test, if you've heard me teach you guys about that, I always say, don't sell them the necklace. You use that video to open up the conversation and say, if they think that's interesting, wait till you see everything. It's just the door opener. It's not, when I go and do an insole demo, I do a demo either with the necklace or the insoles, and they ask me, how much are they? I say, I don't know. I didn't come here to sell you a pair of insoles, but do I have your attention? Because that's all I wanted. The demo for me is the attention grabber to have a real conversation. And what's the real conversation? Real conversation is, where are they going? What could this be for them? And is there a fit? Here's where I'm going. Where are you going? Is there a fit? Or do you know somebody? So if you want to get people's attention, you got to talk where they are, wherever that may be. Somebody may be thrilled to make an extra $500 a month. Well, that person, okay, is going to be attracted to a business offering, not a product sale. But they'll buy the product to invest in the business.
Yeah.
But they won't buy the product to invest in their health. This is human nature, guys. So we're about to go into an economic crisis. We're already in it, but it's going to get pretty rancid out there. And if you're trying to sell a product when there's an economic implosion, when you should be selling an opportunity. So whatever it is you're selling, turn it into an opportunity and you'll get people interested. So we didn't get to much goals. Maybe we can do this again next week, because I do want to share something with you here before we wrap up. I covered this on, I can't remember what call I was on. I was on a call and I covered this screen very quickly. So perhaps I can, let me move this out of the way. There we go. Okay. So how would you go about scheduling a week in the life of somebody who's going for it? How do you plan this out? A week in the life of somebody who's going for it. Well, every day they need to be contacting and inviting a minimum number of people, at least 5, 6 days a week. There needs to be a rhythm of contacting and inviting new people. Now, of course, if they have their list, if they're brand new and they have a list, that's easy to accomplish because they just knock it off. Boom, 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 and they just keep going. So what if you don't have a list? That's another conversation. You know, where are these people? Maggie, you might want to be doing some videos on YouTube talking about this project and seeing, saying, you know what it's like to be at this point in time and you're looking for this and you want this, and you describe it so that that random person who may actually catch your video says, I know what it's like. That's what I would be looking. That's what I'm looking for. But that interests me. Have that conversation, talk out loud. That's what all the YouTubers and Instagrammers are doing. They're just talking out loud. They just blurt out what's on their mind with a bit of a shaped message, depending on who they're looking for. So do it. If you're looking for the 40-year-olds, find a 40-year-old to actually do that for you. To just make a video or 2 or 3, short, 30 seconds. Grab those videos, throw them up, and promote the heck out of them and see if there's any bites. That's using social media the right way. But everybody knows somebody. So go back, create a list. Everybody you know, make a list. And then say, what could I ask all these people who know I'm in NECANN, who've known I've been in NECANN for 30 years, what could I ask these people? What can I say and ask these people that would get them to go, that's interesting. I wonder. Make that your project this week. What could I, if I called everybody who knows I'm in NECANN today, what could I say and ask that would get them to think, that's interesting. I wonder. What would it be? Let it fall into your mind, into your consciousness. So contacting and inviting people, you could build a whole list. If that was if every day you were contacting and inviting people to help you identify somebody they know to add to your list, your first month might be just building this list. Now that I have a list, what do? I contact and invite them with regularity to do what? To invite them into a process of information. Now, this is what the calendar might look like. So let's start with today. Today's Monday. We're on the call right now called Aligning with Success. Okay. Why do you suppose I have this call on Monday nights at 9? Because I'm actually doing what I say I do, what I teach. I have an aligning call where I align people with a certain culture, a certain mindset, a certain way of thinking. In this case, it's about success principles and the principles of success of NECANN. But if you were maybe a gold or a platinum in NECANN or a diamond in NECANN, you might want to think of having your own call, because once you've onboarded somebody and they've onboarded somebody and they've onboarded somebody and it gets pretty convoluted. You got to bring them together somewhere so that you can keep that culture alive. You can infuse them with those principles. So that would be your Monday night call. So get ready to have one of those, Maggie. And you might tap into this call as a supplement to your call. That's why there's a star here, because anyone could have hey guys, like Leo right now. Leo has his call at 7 o'clock, but you see him always, he joins in, some of his teammates join this call. He supplements. So there's the Monday night. That's for team building purposes. Well, guess what? If you expect to have a team, you better plan to have team building. So you build it in your calendar. And you say, I'm going to set that time aside at this hour because I'm going to need to onboard people into this to bring them up to speed on the culture. So I start somebody and I want them to contact and invite somebody every day, 2 to 3 people a day, 3 to 5 people a day, depending on the campaign. And I might want to have a wellness home briefing. So here we have this thing called a wellness home briefing or a wellness preview. I call it a wellness home briefing because it's happening in a wellness home. And it's called a briefing because we're going to brief them on the business. Some people call it a wellness home preview. Some call it a wellness preview. I just simply use the vernacular wellness home briefing. And in that session, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce them to the Nikken concept of the business, the products. That's a better way presentation, essentially, which we're happening right now on Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. So if you're having an in-home and you're new to this, you might want to supplement it by plugging into Nikken's Tuesday night preview, which is the vernacular for Nikken's preview is balanced life, happy life. And the presentation that's done in that venue is a better way, which covers the business and the products. And in that order, by the way, you'll notice. Actually, correct. It's incorrect. It's in the inverse order. Products, business. So we cover an overview of Nikken. How do I supplement that overview of Nikken? I have the website that we've been talking to you about recently called abetterway.business, www.abetterway.business, so that they're going to have access to an online version of this that they can dig in deeper. You don't have to do all the talking. Now, what happens if somebody's interested in the business? They're going to want to know more. They're going to want to know more about how do you make money? How does this come together? Because you don't cover that on Tuesday. You just give them a taste of it on Tuesday. So we have to meet with them again. When? Well, the sooner the better. And usually it's within 48 hours. So I like to reserve Thursday night as the follow-up night for the business-minded prospect. We call that a strategy session. Call it whatever you want. But what are we going to show them? We're going to show them how we make money. We're going to show them a plan because that'll give them confidence to actually invest in that plan. And right now, if you want to jump into a meeting like that, it's being supplemented right now by the 18 karat gold accelerator team. So that call is hosted at 8 p.m. For those of you who want to play the game, I suggest you leverage this call. And by the way, you need to be registered so that we can have interaction, so we know you have guests coming, because we don't sit there and wait for you guys. We schedule the call around the people who are invited. So that's a Thursday night. So if I was launching somebody right now in Toronto, this is what my schedule would look like. Tuesday night would be one presentation, Thursday night would be another, because we have to move people along the process, but we have to move them in groups. Why? Because I'm not doing one noodle at a time. We're doing a bunch of noodles at a time. So we're moving people in groups. Why? Because they're contacting, inviting a lot of people to learn about this. So there's a funnel. Contact and invite, invitation, people show up at the first meeting, then they come to the second meeting for those who are interested in the business, and then what? They onboard, they get started. So get them started. We're supplementing the getting started training, which emphasizes the culture of good, better, best, $1 million list, go for the gold. That's being supplemented on Saturday, also hosted by the GA team, 18 karat gold accelerator team. So that little training emphasizes the culture. If you want to get this culture infused into your organization, your growing team, either do it yourself or leverage a group of people who are doing it. So now you've onboarded somebody, they've made a decision, they've been infused with the culture. It's go time. Go where? Contact and invite people, get them to the meetings. So if you have a schedule of events in your home or locally that people can come to and start adding to, you're going to grow. It's going to start to grow. This is how wellness previews are born. They're born out of necessity. They're born from somebody's living room, or a coffee shop turns to living room, turns to a hotel room because the group is growing. And then what happens is somebody splinters off and they'll do their own meeting. And then it'll start from a coffee shop, a living room, into another hotel. And then somebody will splinter off. And that's how we grow the meetings and the meeting centers. And by the way, when one meeting gets smaller and smaller, it's usually because the meetings have now gone outward. So for instance, in Toronto, there's not a solitary public meeting you can attend, not one. Where Niken started and had quite a robust start. But the business that spun from this center does about $50 million a year today, some 33 years later. So where is the business? It's spread out. It's in Latin America, it's in North America, it's in parts of Canada. It started here, but it's spread out. So even though the meeting is not here, the epicenter is not here, the waves continue to go. So I'm suggesting the same is true for you. You begin the epicenter and start that process where those waves begin to grow for you. So hope you got enough information about this. Any questions about this so we can wrap up? Is it too much? Okay. So
It's good, Mike.
good. I like structure. I'm a
Yeah.
guy who needs structure. And most people who are joining us come from the employee spectrum. 75% of the population are employees. They need structure. They don't know entrepreneurship. They maybe don't know network marketing at all. And so we've got to provide some kind of structure and to game it out and to map it out and say, okay, when am I going to be meeting these people? Create the space. You ever see the movie Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. That's what happens. When I created the first calendar in Toronto, we had no hotels booked, so we had to book hotels because we were gaming this out. January was going to be launch, and it was going to be, we needed all these. So we pre-booked all these hotel rooms without anybody being invited yet. But we anticipated, based on, we were a small group, there was 10 of us, and we figured, okay, if everybody does the contacting and inviting from your list, that's 10 times 100 names. That's 10 times 100 is 1,000. There's going to be 1,000 people invited. And if only a small percentage of those 1,000 show up, we're still going to need a hotel room. And those people who join from that group are going to bring people to the next meeting if we pre-plan the next meeting, so we can just tell them, you're here tonight, come back Thursday and bring somebody. So we had to have the meeting room booked Thursday. You can't book them like the next day. You had to have them in advance. So we pre-booked a month of hotel rooms, figuring people would come on Tuesday, they would bring more people on Thursday, and we would get them started on Saturday. And then we'd come back on Tuesday and again Thursday, and then get them started on Saturday. So we had that month planned out. And man, did that work out. We pre-planned it, we planned it, and we went to town. The word is we. So the first step is to identify the team that's going to launch. And that starts with you. And if you got something to do and a great business plan and a great vision, you'll find your team. Because tell them what you're doing. Tell them what they could be a part of doing and all the wins. People want to be a part of creating something. Tell them what you're creating. Tell them why it's worth creating it. Anyways, that's it for now.
Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure, Maggie. And I think we still need to game this out a little bit more, but maybe you can put some pen to paper and I can help you map it out. But I would really bring it down to that first 15K. Those first 3 players, that first 15K, 2 generations, what's the game plan? Because that will spin this thing into what you want it to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.